Hello, welcome to Less Hustle, More Heart, Resourcing Your Nonprofit with AI. Really excited to spend the next bit of time together and look at ways that AI, an incredibly powerful tool, can hopefully do some really good work for incredible missions like the ones represented in the room. Our goal for the time together is to get you more time for your mission. There are things that you need to do to run your nonprofits. There's the marketing, there's volunteer and donor outreach, fundraising, and business management. Of course, there's so much more, but those were some areas where I'm highly confident that AI can really boost productivity and leave more space for you to focus on your mission. And with nonprofits, I know that it's always a matter of resourcing, and there's never enough. And especially these days, with so many cuts to funding, it felt like a really great time for AI to step up and do some good work. I want to anchor what you do and how you do it and really demonstrate the fact that AI, when it's at its best, it's supporting you to do the best practices as you would do it. It's not taking away the work and doing it all for you. And hopefully that's going to be a theme that really comes out of today is how you can partner with AI to get the help you need to do the work of your association, of your nonprofit. So, with AI to help is kind of the idea of how you do it with AI. Okay, great. So let's look at marketing. This is your mission, your work with AI to support. I like to start a little bit with the best practices associated with marketing because I think that this is sort of the first place where I find that I get a big boost from AI. When I am starting or embarking down a path that I have little or no expertise in, I really like to stop and check what are the best practices. I also like to do that because it aligns me with ChatGPT. So when I want to embark on doing some marketing work, I say, what are the best practices? And when I see what I like, I say, that's what I want us to work from. That's our anchor. We're going to use those best practices to define our marketing strategy because there's a million strategies out there. But I love this one from the Stanford Social Innovation Review because it really spoke to how I think great marketing looks, and that is community based, very visual in how it articulates messages and calls to action. It's emotional, and I just mentioned it. Have clear calls to action, always really crisp on that, and story based, making sure that the stories really sing and resonate. So this is an example of me working with it as a graphic designer, and I just want to make sure that we all know that this is absolutely a skill I do not have. I can barely draw a stick figure, but this image on the left is something that I worked on for the food bank for our local the Resource Connection, our local food bank, which is just doing extraordinary work, and we had a wonderful benefit. And some of my colleagues here, so thank you so much for involving me in the work. And one day I had to laugh because one person on the team said, "So you're a graphic designer?" And I was like, "That's hilarious because I am the furthest thing from a graphic designer you could possibly imagine as I scribble on napkins and stuff like that." But what I do know how to do, as the team all knows now, is use ChatGPT to help me build really beautiful imagery. And so what you see on the screen here is the chat that was used to start the process to build that image. And I want to show you the actual process because I want to show you kind of like the sausage being made, the messiness of the process, and me actually really learning in the process how to engage ChatGPT to be more effective. So let's actually see it. Okay, I have This is essentially just how to do it first, making sure that we're grounded in what it takes to start a image creation. Essentially, you start with a new chat. You click that little plus button. You select create an image, and you start asking. So let's just see. You hit that new chat if there's not one open already. click that plus button and select create an image. So that's all you do to set it up, and then let's see what it actually looks like. So here we are in ChatGPT, and you can see that I began with my prompt: imagine an upscale benefit at a food bank. The theme is Italy. We will have a large printed map of Italy with a banquet hall and a fountain in the center and a Frank Sinatra singer as entertainment. I'm working on ideas for the invitations. What images will evoke either a sense of generosity, community, or upscale benefit? And it starts to just give me these ideas: golden hued Italian map with wine and wheat, farmhouse table at sunset, Venetian fountain with coin toss, open opera gloved hand passing bread or wine. I thought that one was a little bougie and didn't feel appropriate, but I loved how creative it was being. Classic Italian balcony with draped banners. That one I kind of felt like sounded like a movie set scene, so also not as appropriate. Close up of hands sharing a meal. That for me evoked maybe a sense of like a dinner plate, and the last one, wine glass reflection of a map or candlelight with a banquet hall. So I really liked that one, and I said, "Okay, great. Using these color schemes, create an image for number 7." And it produced this wine glass with the reflection, which looked strange to me because it kind of looks like people are stuck in the glass with a candle. I'm like, "That's cool, but how about make it brighter and use a photorealistic style?" So we end up with some guy singing. Actually, if you notice, he has 3 arms and they're eating out of a fountain. Not super cool. So I'm like, "Okay, let's keep the photorealistic style, but remember 7, the map and the glass of wine?" And then it gave me this. And I'm like, "Whoa, clearly I need to adjust my prompt strategy. So let me try this. How about a somewhat photorealistic style of this image?" And I give it the picture. And then it comes up with this, which I'm like, "Oh, great. My bad. This is clearly me not prompting you well. So let me try again. These are the color schemes that I want." So I give an example, and then I actually clearly try to state using its own description of what that coin toss thing looked like, and which is kind of a good maneuver, a good technique to use. Whoa. It's a good technique to use when you really want to kind of come back to anchoring ChatGPT in when it's sort of going astray. Is sometimes really use the language or use its own language, use its interpretation, prompt it to understand what to do. So we get this fountain, which looked a little hokey to me, but definitely heading in the right direction. So I decided to keep with my prompt style. I'm going to, you know, create number 1 in the list, and it makes this, which I thought was quite beautiful. And so I said, now add the regions to it because I thought it would be nice to see it with a little bit more interest, visual interest. But those Friuli, Venezia, Giulia does not look like a real place to me. So I'm like, ooh, hallucinating? How accurate is this map? And so I ask it, how accurate is that? And this is again going back to what I was saying about, is it hallucinating? No, it actually knows that it made those names up. Those are made up names. So it was just sort of, it doesn't know that I care about the accuracy. It was throwing in whatever, something that sounded fun. So it's really important again then to sort of say, all right, so give me the accurate version, which I did. And then this looks far more accurate to me. I thought again, though, I wanted something different from that map, sorry, the fountain. So I looked for an example, an image that I thought might really resonate. And I found this one and used it as a kind of a hook to give it a sense of what I was looking for. And of course, we end up with the final results. And there we go. All right, another example. This is me plus a social media manager. So I, again, feel zero confidence in that my ability to um, think about be a marketing expert of any kind. I don't really get the whole social media thing, but I've definitely seen a lot of my friends getting on social media and actually making some pretty big incomes off of their work online. And I started thinking, as a building a nonprofit, as my husband Fred and I are thinking about doing some nonprofit mission-based work in the realm of supporting rural young adults and teens. And I've really been thinking a lot about how helpful it is and how important it is to uh, increase the skill set around AI. As I mentioned before, I think that AI fluency is absolutely critical in being ready for the future of work today. So the future of work that they're going to step into. So I was like thinking, how can I maybe use a social media strategy to help build more resilience into a nonprofit that my husband Fred and I might build? And you know so the more revenue streams that you have, the more resilience your nonprofit is, as we all know, right? So I was looking to see if there's a revenue stream here. And so I said, hey, ChatGPT, help me brainstorm a strategy, a social media strategy. So let's take a look and see what that looked like. Okay, so this is from an actual chat from May 2025. And I basically said, I want to build my AI development expertise so that I can help share that with rural teens and young adults. Because if they have that, I think that they're going to be able to enter this digital economy much more with much greater facility. So I'd like to get the word out and maybe even be able to monetize my efforts. Suggest two strategies and compare contrast them and assume these things. So I give it some boundary conditions. That sense of two strategies, the cool thing about doing that is that you really get ChatGPT to think through its answers. It's not just going to give you, hey, this is cool. It's actually going to balance the balance trade-offs and puts and takes, return on investment. All of those kinds of things are really great uh, questions to ask when you're trying to get it to think in a more strategic and analytical way. So it responded. Here we go. Just advance it a little. It's been a long time here. Okay, so it laid out two strategies. One, building in public with some mini AI apps, and basically becoming a builder of AI applications, and then releasing about those on YouTube and LinkedIn. And then the second strategy is, create rural AI uplift. And so, kind of go for more of a workshop based series. And and then it kind of comes out with this sort of compares and contrasts those two different approaches: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And I think it did a pretty good job of thinking through that and at least initiating a lot of thought on my part. And in the end, it kind of suggests to create a hybrid path. One, build credibility by practicing and building skills. And then two, uh, layering in this workshop approach, which would really kind of like help me connect with the community and get local visibility and partnerships. And so, interestingly, while I did not do it exactly that way, in many ways, I was deeply inspired by that discussion. So I did actually go out and really invest deeply in becoming a citizen developer. I played with all of those tools that are on the left, and I actually learned how to build applications with using AI. And tomorrow, in fact, we'll be offering the first ever workshop that I will be offering to young adults in my local community about how to build a personalized tutor using AI. So, um, see how it goes. Volunteer and donor outreach. So critical to keep your volunteers engaged, your donors feeling appreciated, aware of what you're doing, aware of the impact of your work. And so, top three themes are, thanking fast, personalizing all of your outreach, segmenting your communications, making it a two-way dialogue, really, really ensuring that people understand like what did what did you say that we took to heart and implemented or did? As we look at this new capability or at the next capability, I'm going to shift and I'm going to add a new, I'm going to up our skill level. I'm going to go from prompts to projects. So, in the first section on marketing, we really looked at prompts. So, we looked at one off discussions. And now, what I'm going to do is look at like when I have a lot of discussions around the same topic, what do I do? And so volunteer and donor outreach is a great example of something that I'm going to do repeatedly with a lot of common themes about what I want and how I need it to look. So let's first just have a moment to look at how to build a project. So let me show you a little video of how to build a project. So here we are. This is a project, and so as I just said, these are chats on the left. These are individual chats, and you remember maybe from the video I shared, this is what a chat looks like. It's got prompts, and then you go through and you ask questions and all that kind of stuff. So a project is very similar formats, but it's slightly different. And it's different because it has instructions. And with you click those three little dots and you get instructions. So now I've said to this project, tell me three things about a topic that only someone with a 90th percentile or greater understanding would have. And then I say something, competitive chess playing. Great. And it thinks. And then they get an answer. You can see it thinking. All right. So what's really different here is I'm anticipating asking a lot of times about this expert topic. And I want it always to have three insights and I want it to always be 90th percentile. And I don't want to have to tell it that every single time. So I give it those instructions. And now I have this ability to get to what I want really quickly. So a project is different than a general chat and discussion because it's sort of got that repeatability in it. So let's see how to build it. You just click new project and you can put whatever you want in there and add an emoji. In this example, I'm going to actually just pick one of these along the side. So hit that. This is an example. And I get investing. So I'm going to go up and edit the instructions and add those instructions. And in this one, I'm a huge fan of Warren Buffett and his investment styles. So I basically give it the instructions to you are Warren Buffett. You're a world class value investor with the best track record in the history of investing. That's my perspective of him. Your job is to help me learn how to do value investing like you. All right, I can click save. And then all I have to do when I ask my first question, how should I evaluate Amazon stock, for example? I don't have to give it all that context and that sense of its role. I can see that it's considering that in how it's thinking about the answer. All right. So that's an intro to projects. So let's look at how we can apply this to our community outreach. As we mentioned, we have the instructions, and that's really the guidelines, the actions, the focus that you want this project to have. Then you can also add files. So now this gives you context, examples, references. So think of a project as really instructions plus files. So now let's see how this looks. Instructions. And so I tell it who it is, my email writing assistant. This is going to be a very in-depth set of instructions that you'll see. So again, this is where I'm going to share this actual text with you so you can copy it. I explain a style. I explain the files that I want it to use. I explain how I want it to handle data and audience segments, how I want the output of its emails to look, how I want it to generate batch work, and how to avoid sounding like an LLM. Um, I've even created some shortcuts so that I can even have shorter commands because I'm feeling really like I'm going to do this a lot. Right. This is all mock and sample. But I've really put a lot of thought into how to structure this project so that it does what I want it to do. Another thing is that I have made sure. Oh, before we do that, let's see. So, because I never remember the shortcuts, I would usually get in there and say, what are the shortcuts, just to remind myself. And so it's going to think about that. And here we go. Those are the shortcuts. So it kind of reminds me of the shortcut and the data that it's going to use and how it's going to do it. So I'm like, okay, great. I can remember what I was going to do. But let's take a moment to review or look at or preview what the data sources, the data files are that I use. So this is just the sample files that I created. They aren't real. This is all dummy data, but I created a volunteer um, list with kind of common things that you would find in volunteer. By the way, I didn't create this. I had ChatGPT do it. Stories, kind of like impact stories that we would really want to share with our audience. Event participants, sort of what's the last events we've had? What were the dates? Were they an attendee? Were they a host? Notes. So if you track that, that would be something that you could put into this project. Recent donors, what was their gift type, interest areas? These are really common things that people collect, nonprofits collect when they do these kinds of um, when you track your donors. And I hope you're collecting information like this. A calendar of upcoming events, and an impact menu. And this is like those very specific examples of what $25 will get you. Those really clear, like here's how your money is going to go to doing good work. And again, this is kind of like building in best practices as you're driving this project so that you really make sure it's doing what you want and meeting your expectations of how great community outreach is going to look. So let's just pick one of those, re-engage volunteers, hit go, and it's going to think. Now, it's going to come up with an output. And as I said, I never delegate responsibilities. So once it comes out with this output, I am absolutely going to double check its work. And increasingly, in certain areas, I might become more confident that it's doing certain things well, and others but other things need more supervision, but I always supervise. So when it comes out with its output, we'll see just how I double check to make sure that things look as I want them. And I might even edit and rewrite things that I think need a little bit of tweaking. But the hope is that instead of doing all of this work, I am starting from a much further place along. So it went through the files and it came up with this, and it basically identified two volunteers, Ethan and the other one below. And it's got a subject line, a pre-header to the email, a body of the email. It's personalized. It remembers when he was here last, and it's got a call to action along with a link that it is anticipating to use for the call to action. And again, when you get the project, you can put in your own links, but this is, kind of a dummy version. And so obviously, I would double check this email, make sure that I like it, that I feel it represents us, and I'm 100% responsible for what comes out of it, as well as making sure that it's accurate. So you can see that I want to go into the original file and make sure that it did, in fact, pull the most inactive volunteers. Oop. Fair win. But let's just go back and see. It did actually, uh, I did check that it actually did that accurately. So let me pause. So you can see Ethan and Liam, it correctly and accurately identified them and the hours and the other information. So good to go. So just a matter of messaging at that point. Okay. So So as I said, a project is instructions plus files. The instructions are guidelines, their actions, their focus, and files are context, examples, reference, data. Okay. So now let's look at fundraising. So with fundraising, one of the things that I really struggle with, like one of the big, heavy workhorses is grant writing. And so, of course, I built a project that I thought would might be useful to you to see, just as a template of grant writing, because this is something I think all nonprofits have to do. And essentially, what I did was create a project where I built out its instructions again, its role, what the context is, and I tuned it very specifically to a particular um, grant. So once I'd found a grant that looks like it might actually be relevant to the kind of work that I'm really interested in doing for rural youth, that's when I sort of stopped and said, okay. Let me tune this grant writer just to that. And so again, I'll give you the template for this and just feel free to go in and tune it and make it your own. But I really did try to make sure that it was um, connected to a specific grant. So this is the uh, grant. As you can see, here's the instructions that are in it. And it is connected directly to that grant, that very specific one, Young Futures AI for Rural Youth. And I give it a lot of context about exactly what I want to see in a best practice application for a grant. And again, I looked a lot of this stuff up on ChatGPT and I really pulled out the stuff that resonated with me. And then I basically come in and I say, help me plan the next steps for this grant. What's due by when? Think hard. Accuracy is key. Make sure to use real sources. So, this is really one of those moments, again, where I am making sure that I am not going to get a bunch of hallucinations and inaccurate information. You can really tell the model that you need it to be giving you high quality output. So, that's a really important thing to know as you're prompting. So, here we go. Let's watch it go. And of course, it's gonna think a little bit more to answer this question. And because of that, it's gonna take a little while. But I thought it might be nice to see just for a moment it searching the web and really doing quite a bit of groundwork to make sure that it's pulling together the correct information. Um, Let me just kind of skip forward a bit. Still working. Still working. Should have edited that out. Here we go. So about for a minute and 16 seconds, that's quite a while. And it develops this fairly extensive plan of roadmap. And you can see that there are very, these citations are listed after every date. I highlight a couple there. Great. Um, It's got the detailed timelines, it's got what's due next, and it can see, which track I might be on. Did I make the December 2025 one? I don't think so. So maybe I can, be up for the next one, which is in April 2026. So if I'm going to actually apply for this grant, I'm going to have to redo this timeline. But I thought helpful to see how detailed it can be. And when it thinks hard, it puts a lot of really specific information that I would not be surprised if 98% of this is accurate. But I would check it because I'm responsible for it. Okay. The other thing about fundraising is the expertise of somebody who is just an extraordinary, you know, gift officer, somebody who can turn it on at an event, at a conference, no matter where you are, and they really are able to uh, pull out. The best, most pithy examples of what your mission is all about, and make the ask and not get embarrassed, and not just gloss over things because they've had a glass of wine and they just want to chill out. I struggle with those kinds of things. So I actually want to show you a demo. This one I'm going to pop away and show. You may have heard of people talking to ChatGPT, having conversations with it, and relating to it. And this is a way that I like to engage with ChatGPT, which is to brainstorm while I'm out walking with my dog, or to do a role play. And for me, those kinds of conversations that may be sort of sales like in nature always raise my blood pressure a little bit and make it something that I feel like I need to prepare extra for. I am going to show you what it looks like if we put it in voice mode. So if I click this, it's going to go into voice mode. So it's going to talk to me. If I click this, it just means that I'm dictating to it. So I could just talk to it instead of type. So let's see what it looks like when I put it in voice mode. Right? Have to give it permission. All right, let's practice.
Absolutely. Let's jump into a practice scenario. So here's the scene. It's a warm and slightly breezy afternoon, and you're at an outdoor community fair in Calaveras County. People are wandering around, and you've got a little booth set up showcasing your new AI for Rural Youth initiative. Your goal is to connect with a potential donor who's just stopped by and seems curious about how they can help. They've got a neutral but interested vibe, and after a few friendly words, they ask, "So tell me a bit more about what you're doing and how someone like me could actually get involved. We'll let you take it from here, and after a handful of exchanges, I'll jump in with some coaching."
Great. So I am not
Perfect. So
going
feel free.
to Sorry. I am not going to actually run that practice scenario with ChatGPT right now. But what I wanted you to see is how rich that scenario could look like. And at least for me, I don't know about you, but it gets my blood pressure going of what am I going to say? What am I going to do? And that's exactly how I feel when I'm in those situations. So I love that kind of role play practice. And let's see what this editing of instructions looks like. So once again, I gave it a role. I told it how to engage with me, including, keeping it real, keeping it realistic, helping it to remind me to set the tone, set the stage, because a lot of that kind of richness and depth really makes it feel real for me. It helps put me in the mood. And I gave it some sample scenarios of the kinds of things I thought might be something that I would deal with. All right. So that is takes us to our last segment, business management. And we've done prompts and chats, we've done projects, and now we're going to add sources. And so sources are really when you hook ChatGPT up to other resources, other tools, and like Google Drive, and like um, a presentation making resource, which we'll see in the examples that we have here. So it's really adding a whole new level of kind of capability and automation to what you already have. So first, you just go down to your name and you click on personalization, or and then apps and connectors. And you can see that I have set up three connectors: Canva, GitHub, and Google Drive. Canva is a presentation making software that is better at making presentations than ChatGPT is. GitHub is a tool for developers to store and keep track of their code. And Google Drive, of course, is where I store all my files. And so you can see all of these different other kinds of applications that you can click on and add. And it'll, of course, take you through an integration series of questions. Um, I don't get a lot into security in this presentation, but I would say that if you're going to use like the Gmail or the contacts, I really do suggest that you get a business account because it has higher levels of security. And you can also look for more coming from me in the days ahead because I will be trying to put some stuff out on security as well. So then once you've done that, you just simply, in a new chat, as an example, you just click on the plus sign as back to that, and you click add sources. Now, mine automatically added the Google Drive, but you can see I can toggle that on and off. And now let me prompt it. And I just say, find the most relevant presentations on growth mindset in my Google Drive, just to make sure it doesn't check all of the internet. And there you go. And we'll watch what it does. So you can imagine that when you have this resource, you can basically have it do research on your own files and folders and look through your email and see if you have neglected to reach out to certain people. I mean, there's a real infinite variety of things that you can do as you think about what it means to be connected to, say, your Google Drive or to your email or to your knowledge sharing resources. So it looked through my slides. It found some things from 2016 because I've been using Google for a long time, and it looks pretty good. So we can even, I think, I even open up a couple of these and just make sure that you can see that they are in fact um, legitimately a great selection. Yeah. So that was the grit and growth mindset, and here is the labs, and I just double checked. And yep, growth mindset. So, good job. So the basically to recap, you just kind of you go into your normal chat and you add sources and then you just type your prompt. So another example of a prompt that I thought was kind of more business related as well is like when you're preparing for a discussion, you could say, "Hey, what were the last meeting notes?" Because I store all my meeting notes in Google Drive. What were the last meeting notes that I've had on the Alumni Association? This is an association work for with the Columbia College, and help me prep for a meeting with the executive director. And so this is what it came up with. And you can see its references. It pulled out a reference for every one of the conversations that it found. And, gave me a pretty extensive uh, review of what I could do, and what I discussed. And it also gave some suggestions of how I might prepare. So you can imagine that that's kind of like having an executive assistant go through your calendar and look at all of the conversations that you had with a certain person and summarize those notes. My last example is going to be the the sort of most I think one of the most frequently discussed examples of a chat that, of a functionality that people want. And I just want to caveat this by saying there's ways in which this is fantastic. And I think there's also ways that you'll see that this is very limited. But in business management, one of the big things you have to do is have board discussions, right? And it's really important in those conversations to be disciplined about what you share and what you do. And it takes a lot of work to prepare. So here's a few themes that I really anchor on or try to anchor on when I think about preparing for board meetings. You got to stick to your priorities, measure impact to learn, not to drown. This is something that I see a lot of nonprofits struggling with. And, I think it's so important to try to battle if you can. Don't starve your nonprofit by underfunding your business infrastructure. This is actually something that I'm hoping today with some of the investments in AI. You're seeing maybe some new ways to invest in your business infrastructure very cheaply, but also very strategically. And engage in an active board is critical to success. So making board time strategic is really um, key for having a high performing nonprofit. And so let's look at a project with a source, adding a source capability, right? So we're now going from prompts to projects to adding sources to our projects. So I'm going to show you an executive assistant working on a board presentation, and I'm going to add this Canva capability. So this little Canva thing right here, the slide making capability. But here we go. So you can see that I have instructions for this project, and I'm basically saying every time I ask for board prep, I want to make sure we're answering these questions to help ensure I've got a strategic board conversation. And I want you to review my files, like make sure you're anchoring in the data and the information that I'm sharing for you because it's so critical. Um, and here we go. I'll save that. And let's go ahead and try it out. Come up here and make my ask. Sunday scaries. Yes, don't want to have those in preparing for my board meeting. Um, so it goes through the board objectives, what it thinks we're aiming for in that discussion, and it learns and, and discovers that I am looking for a go decision on building our alumni association, which is correct. So it's accurately figured that out. And as it thinks about what the two forks in the road are, proceed versus pause, and how to resource this association, again, very spot on. There's tweaks that I would be making to this. And if I were, doing this for real, I would be going in and editing slightly. But this is, as a start, I would say this is like 80% of the way there in terms of being pretty much spot on with where we are. Um, and so I go through and I check it. And I'm thinking of this as an executive assistant. So I'm not thinking that it's responsible for having all of the answers. That's my job. But what I am thinking is that I'm trying to get a little bit of help preparing and speeding up my amount of time doing the grunt work for the board preparation so that I can spend more time being strategic and having conversations with other board members to secure that go conversation. So, okay, I say, all right, this looks decent enough for now. And let me show you a template. This is actually a template in Canva. And you can see it's blank. It's just thank you anywhere, board presentation, executive summary, lorem ipsum, like it's empty. But it is the template that I'm pretending that we're using for this board presentation. And in a way, the structure itself, I'm hoping kind of helps me make sure that I'm being strategic and talking about finances and other things that I think are really important. So I come back here and I say, all right, I'm going to add this template in a PDF that I downloaded and shared it in a PDF. And I essentially now want you to outline this plan in the same format that will fit this board presentation. Great. So it's going to read that template and it figured it out, but it gave me a link. So I'm like, I actually want you to outline it here so we can see it. So and then it outlines it here. And I'm like, of course, I take a look and I'm like, okay, that looks good. Again, 80/20. It's not perfect, but I want to, for the sake of the demo, uh, show you that I am going to share a link. Make sure that the link is set so that anyone with the link can edit it. And I grab the link. I can't see me doing that off screen. But then I come back here and I say, okay, please edit this presentation with the outline that you just created. And I give it the link. And then this takes a few minutes, so I just kind of cut that out and it gives me a preview of the slides. And then it always asks at the end of this, do you actually want to save it? And so you have to make sure to say yes. So I say, yes, please save. And so it thinks for another moment and it saves it. And as you see, I preview what it looks like here, but I can also open it up if you want to see it live. But it basically is, in some ways, it's a mess. I mean, it has, it's not formatted correctly and all that kind of stuff. But everything is where you'd expect it to be. It requires very little formatting relative to starting from scratch, and it is research based on my files and folders and discussions, and it is reference to all of the things that have been happening in the past. And so, actually, as a beginning point, this saves me hours of prep, of review, and writing. And so, a great starting point. Uh, but just really intended not to do the actual presentation, not to figure out what the actual decisions are, but really just to support a discussion and for me to do the heavy lifting of making sure it's the right decisions, well thought through, well presented, and in a format that I can really have a conversation, support a conversation with board members as I prepare for that decision. So, hopefully, uh, a good illustration of where that bright line needs to be drawn, where you're having it support something, but not take it over. And just to recap, that is a project with those instructions, and I used a source of Canva, which is a specialized tool that really is made to build presentations. So that's ChatGPT with this kind of added capability.